And the principal goes like, what do you want to be when you grow up? You're a very, curious human. So what are your goals and aspirations? I want to be on TV. I want to be a TV host. She's like, you can't be a TV host. Your voice is very funny.
Oh,
and
man.
Imagine that as a 15-year-old.
Wow.
I didn't know that affected my career path until years after. That was always in the back of my mind. I originally wanted to orange pill Isla Mujeres.
Yes.
But,
I just wanted to orange pill Isla Mujeres.
but
I just had a small dream of orange pilling an island.
Orange pilling an island. I can't develop anything, but I could try an orange pill an island. But once I went to Motive, I saw how Bitcoin was just one arm of the octopus. It wasn't the whole octopus. That's what I want to do. So it's not just about orange pilling. I want to do more there.
Hello and welcome to another episode of You're the Voice. Today I have a very, very special voice with me, and you'll understand what I mean in a few minutes. I want to say thanks to Trezor for hosting me and us in their brand new studio here in Prague. We're 2 days before BTC Prague, so the excitement is full on. And this studio is amazing. This is the second episode I'm recording here. There's going to be one more, so make sure that you watch all 3 episodes that I'm going to be recording here. And let's kick it off. I have the biggest honor to sit here with my friend, Isabella Santos.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. What a cool introduction.
Wait, This is just the beginning. So Isabella was concerned that this is going to be very official. It cannot be official with you. I don't know how someone can be not like completely bubbly and all out when they're speaking to you. I don't know how it's possible. And I have seen people like that. And it's like your energy is just pulling that out of people. So how can they stay serious when they talk to you?
I don't know, man, but some people are serious. You just got to break them up, You only live once. There's this really cool quote that I like. Don't take life too seriously because you only have one. I don't know how to say it. I always forget it when I need it, but it goes along the line like that.
Of don't be too serious.
Don't take life too seriously.
Yeah, because who knows what happens tomorrow.
Exactly.
Okay, so for those of you who don't know Isabella, she's the co-founder of GetBased, which is a Bitcoin media company, and we're going to talk about them soon, and the founder of BTC Isla, which is in Isla Mujeres in Mexico. And it's an initiative to create a Bitcoin circular economy with the vision to empower the locals to utilize Bitcoin as a tool for freedom, which I love. So we're going to talk about all that, but let's start a bit with your background.
Okay.
And where were you born, and where did you live, and how did you get to what you're doing today?
A little bit.
And you must tell me your age. I don't know your age, but it's important for the conversation.
It is?
Well, you don't have to if you don't want to, but...
I don't have trouble. So I'm 27. I was born in Lima, Peru. So I lived there until I was around 8 or 10 years old. And obviously, in third world countries, either you make it or you don't. So my dad was actually running to be mayor of a little town called Pueblo Libre. And he spent all his money, for the campaign and everything. And my mom actually hates politics. So she's like, you know what? Let's do this. If you win the election, we'll stay here. But if you lose the election, we're leaving the country. So I found out years later that they were looking either at Spain or the United States. And all of a sudden, my dad runs for the election. He put all the mortgage, everything into the campaign. Like, we literally had nothing. It was either he won or,
Wow, what a bet.
What a bet. Because his dream was to be president of his country. And he ended up losing the election.
You're the Voice is brought to you by Trezor, the original Bitcoin hardware wallet company pioneering the development of self-custody for crypto assets since 2013, empowering individuals with an open source device, enabling beginners and experts to easily and securely hold their coins. I find my Trezor super easy to use and recommend it to my friends and family. Enjoy my 5% discount on Trezor products by clicking the link in the show notes and using the code FLAT.
He tells me now, honestly, I only had $1 to my name. I asked my mom for money, bought the plane ticket. He went to Naples, Florida, which is this very calm city. It's 2 hours away from Miami. His brother was there. So my dad had an American passport because his dad was born in New York. So that's why they decided to go to the United States instead of Spain. When my dad gets there, he starts working with his older brother. He's a family of 7. And he remembers getting off of the plane with his dollar bill. And he's like, I want a Coke. So he goes into the vending machine and puts his dollar, and the Coke was $1.25. He could not get that Coke.
Wow.
So he gets his dollar, and he's like, you know what? I'm going to save this dollar when I bring back like the whole family. Because his plan was to stay in Naples and then fly us all out. Mm-hmm. At this time, my little brother, who was like, I don't know, was just born. So he had my little brother just born. Me, I was like 8 or 7. Then my older brother, 13 at the time. And he worked for a full year, had nothing, and then flew us all out to Naples. And then we started our new life in Naples, Florida. I stayed there until I was 18, and then I went to study in Miami. And I grew up, like, my adolescence in Naples. And there was this time when I went to high school that my teacher asked me what I wanted to be. And I always wanted to be a journalist because I used to see Juliana Rancic on TV. And she was on E! News. And she was very fun, talking about fashion. And her beginnings was as a news anchor. And she's from Italy. So I remember her talking about how she lost her accent by being a news anchor and learning how to watch TV, watching the news, because in the news they use very simple language. Mm. So I was watching her, and I was like, wow, I want to be her when I grow up. So I started growing an interest in becoming a journalist. Mm-hmm. And in high school, I went to a private Catholic high school, and the nun was a principal. So the nun goes up to me, and she's like, hey, Isa. You know, it was very small, so the teachers and the students would, they knew each other by name and everything. And the principal goes like, what do you want to be when you grow up? You're a very, curious human. So what are your goals and aspirations? And I looked at her and I was like, I want to be on TV. I want to be a TV host. She's like, you can't be a TV host. Your voice is very funny.
Oh,
and
man.
Imagine that as a 15-year-old.
Wow.
So she told me that, and I didn't know that affected my career path until years after. So that was always in the back of my mind. And then you fast forward to when I go to college. For some reason, instead of pursuing my career in journalism, I end up going and taking the more serious route, architecture. So I start architecture. While I'm there, I realized I like it, but I don't love it. Mm-hmm. And being an architect in the United States, you don't get paid a lot of money until years onto the profession, especially if you don't have your own company. So as I was there working, I was like, I don't love this. If I'm going to get paid shit money, I might as well, enjoy getting paid shit money with what I like to do.
Yeah.
So then I, decided to do PR because I was like, I like talking to people. Didn't like PR. And then all of a sudden, there was this talk in the university I was in. I was in University of Miami. This professor, he worked in Telemundo at NBC Universal, ends up doing a speech. And then it clicked. And I was like, that's what I want to do. Like, I'm going to pursue that. So I remember looking at all the job applications before this talk, and I applied to all of them. I applied to all the job applications. I was a sophomore or junior in university. And while I was there, I printed out my resume. And I go to his talk, and he's talking there about how the studios work, how running the company is and everything. And after his talk, I remember going up to him and being like, hey, I applied to all the positions. I really would like an internship there. And I remember all the students being there and trying to ask for an internship, but none of them had their resumes printed out. None of them had applied for the job. And that's when proof of work comes in.
Yep.
Because I was like, hey, I applied and I haven't heard back. Here's my resume. He remembered me immediately, gave me his personal email, and got me an internship for the FIFA World Cup at the time, which was in 2018. And that's when I was like, I love entertainment. Because I remember going every day, watching the live shows, watching everything. And that's how I stumbled and started becoming a journalist in entertainment. And to answer the question, how did I become where I am, I'm assuming with Bitcoin, was once that was established, I end up graduating in 2020. I thought I was going to get a full-time job at Universal, at NBC Universal.
Yep.
Because that's a given. You get an internship, you are there for 2-3 years, they officially give you the job offer. But I didn't take into consideration 2020. So I graduate mid-pandemic because the graduation was May 2020. And the thing started in March. So they kicked everybody out of the school. Everything went online. And when I tried to apply the jobs, they're like, sorry, we're already firing people. We're not going to hire new people. So I stayed jobless. And I was like, whoa, what am I going to do now? You know, I had all this thing planned out. And all was whatever. I put that behind me. I was like, I'm going to keep pursuing that, but I have to take another road. All roads lead to Rome, you know? I end up working at a fulfillment hub. It's called Fulfillment Hub USA. I started their Ecom Daily News. It was an online newspaper about all the e-commerce news. Amazon was booming because all the shipments were coming. There was a big ship in China that sunk with all the shipment in it. And people didn't really know what happened to the shipment. So I was like, let me cover all of this. Don't worry, I got you. So I start covering all the e-com news. I was living in Miami now. And my boyfriend, Clau, was like, yo, there's a Bitcoin conference. If you're covering e-commerce news, you have to go to the Bitcoin conference. But my bosses at the time didn't want to pay for the ticket because the ticket was like $300.
Was your boyfriend a Bitcoiner?
He was a Bitcoiner. He was a Bitcoiner. He had bought Bitcoin, and he's like, but he wasn't fully orange pilled. There's buying Bitcoin and then being orange pilled, and he's like, go, you know, you have to cover this because everything's online. So I go to my boss and I'm like, hey, can you buy me the ticket? Because the media pass was like $300. He's like, no, your media, go in there for free. I'm like, how am I going to go in for free? They're not answering my emails. I can't go in. So I decide to have like a mini coffee stand outside the venue because everybody wants free coffee and everybody's going to be lining up to get in. And I stand up there with the free coffee, but I'm like, no, that's not enough. So I decide to message all the speakers that were going on Instagram and Twitter, and I'm sending them like DMs like, hey, I'm a startup. Can you please give me startup? Like, I'm part of a startup company. I would love to interview you. You're going to be in Miami. It'll be super quick. I'll get you coffee, free coffee. And nobody answered except two people, BTC Sessions and Alex Vetsky. But BTC sessions, he couldn't. And Alex Vetsky goes, I don't like coffee. And I'm like, damn it. All right, I can get you cupcakes. He's like, I don't do sugar. And I'm like, okay, but can I do
What can I bribe you with?
Yeah, what can I bribe you, like, for your time, you know? And he's like, honestly, I can't do the interview, but there's a meetup. Show up here at 7, download Telegram, Signal, all these apps. I don't use WhatsApp. I don't use iMessage because they're all tracking you. I was a normie at the time, and I was thinking, what is this man talking about? So I download all these apps. I go there at 7 sharp. The guy's not there. I was at a ramen noodle place, and I'm sitting there waiting, and I overhear a couple talking about Bitcoin. So I go up to them, and I'm like, hey, guys, are you here for the meetup? They're like, yes, come sit with us. And that couple starts talking to me about Bitcoin and the community. More people start joining, and I start having these conversations, and I realize these are the smartest people I've ever talked to. So a little light bulb went in. I'm like, something right is happening here. Fast forward like a couple 2 hours, Alex Vetsky shows up. We're all having fun, talking about Bitcoin. I'm learning a lot. I'm like a sponge at this time. And at the end, he looks back. He's like, you know what? I'm going to help you go into the conference. I'm like, how? He's like, don't worry. I'm a speaker. You can be my media person. So he ends up getting me into the conference so I can do full coverage. The interviews that I did at that conference are still online to this day. They're so funny. I had no idea what I was learning. It's crazy to watch now. I interviewed Rizzo, and that's how...
Rizzo is the editor of Bitcoin Magazine.
Of Bitcoin Magazine. So I interviewed him, and he's orange pilling me in the interview. And after that conference, I was like, you know what? There's something right here. This is peak bull market. This is the time that, Bukele announced that he was going to make El Salvador a legal tender. They had bolivars thrown everywhere. I was just high on life being at that conference. I remember leaving and selling all my stocks and putting everything on Bitcoin, like 69,000. And then the price just plummets. And I start doing all my research. This is my savings. I'm a spender. If I have money in the bank, I'm going to spend it. So what I decided to start doing was putting like $100 a little bit, or like anything that I had a week, I would put on the side for Bitcoin. And I did that while I was learning and the price was coming down. I decided, I was like, this is the best way to save my money. And fast forward 6 months later, I reached out to Rizzo for doing some ads for Bitcoin Magazine. And he's like, no, but you know what? We're looking for somebody to do videos. At this time, I was working on TV already. And he's like, I've seen what you do on TV. Why don't you, apply for this? And Alex McShane interviewed me, and I started my whole journey doing the street interviews in Miami. Mm-hmm. And that's how I got here.
And wow, that's a hell of a journey. And you still do that today with them? With Bitcoin Magazine or BTC Inc.?
Well, I don't do the street interviews. I do their new show called Bitcoin Backstage.
Mm-hmm. How often?
Once a week.
Mm-hmm.
And it's sort of, the idea was to explain what's going on with Bitcoin in simple terms. Because I always go back to the beginning when I first started into Bitcoin, how everything was so intimidating. You have these big words, very intellectual people trying, to talk to normal people. And for years, I felt like I'm never going to learn it. I'm never going to understand it. But once you learn it, you're like, it's not that complicated.
Yeah.
They throw big words that you're like, brother, if you would have explained it like this, I would have gotten it from the get-go. Yes. But no, they make everything so hard and hard to get. And it's a huge barrier for people that just want to learn and find a way. Like, what is it, All these simple questions like, why not the bank? What backs it up? And there needs to be a better way to explain it without watching like a 3-hour podcast that you're going to get lost in the beginning. So that's how I decided to do Bitcoin Backstage. It all started with the interviews, because once you're in the rabbit hole, you're like, oh my goodness, I'm super late. But in reality, no, we're so early.
Yeah.
And when I started talking to the people in Miami, how early we were, I wanted to teach them in a way that they could easily understand, and especially terms that are happening. People learn in different ways. So I decided, okay, why not do it on video? And yeah.
And that's exactly why you're here. That's exactly why I invited you to speak to me and to make sure that people get your voice and your perspective, because it's not that complicated. Well, it doesn't have to be unless you're a software developer and you go into the trenches and start writing code. But as long as you're not, you're just a person like me and you just want to understand how it's going to influence your life and how you can start using it and where you buy it and all the simple questions. So what you do is so important. And I think people need to know your work, and not just your work, but GetBased as well. So we'll talk about that too. But I hope you know by now that what that school teacher was telling you about your voice and how it's weird or bizarre, or what did she say? You have a strong voice?
Funny voice.
A funny voice.
Yeah.
You can't be on TV because you have a funny voice, right? I hope that you own it today as your uniqueness. Do you?
Yeah, I love it. Some people
I don't think it's
I'm
funny, by the way. I think it's very dominant, but I don't think it's a funny voice. It's just a very unique voice. It's different, definitely.
And well, now I've learned to embrace it. Obviously, I'm like, either you can't stand it or you know.
It's one of your signatures. Definitely, people don't have to even look to understand that it's you when they hear your voice. You have this tone, you have this way of speaking. It's one of your signatures. And that's super important when I teach personal branding. When you find your uniqueness and you own it, it's just yours. No one else has this. Only you have it. And it's a really important tool to be remembered and to have that connection mechanism with people.
Is that we're taught that we all have to be the same way.
Exactly.
Speak a certain way. And that's one of the cool things.
Look a certain way.
Look a certain way. And the cool thing about Bitcoiners is that it's like a place for all like the misfits. You can be whoever you want to be. It doesn't matter. That's one of like the top things that I learned from being part of the Bitcoin community is like there's no judgment. It's like people just don't care.
Yeah.
Like
I was listening last night because I'm preparing for the interviews with you, with others. So I was listening to a really brilliant discussion between Daniel Prince and my friend Dr. Ahmed Malik from, he hates when I call him Ahmed, it's Ahmed Malik from London. And he was telling Daniel that Bitcoin is a cult. He was asking him, is it a cult? Come on, tell me the truth. It's a cult. And Daniel was answering in the best possible way. He was like, what do you want me to say? And then he said, you know that people that are part of a cult don't know that they're part of a cult. He goes, okay, so I'm in a cult. Good answer. So it's funny because, you know, I, like you, came into Bitcoin only recently, like 2 years ago, 3 years ago. And I obviously don't have any aspirations in my life to become a member of a cult. I want to be free, right? That's my driver in coming into Bitcoin. And so it's really funny to me when people look at me today and they say she's controlled a position or she's now part of a cult or whatever, or what happened to her. And it's like, come on, people. It doesn't matter. Just like you said now, if a cult is a place where you can bring who you are and be yourself and be fully self-expressed and be different and be a misfit and you'll be accepted for it, then how is that a cult?
Exactly. It's more like a community that just loves everything.
Exactly.
You know? It's like when they say we're better in numbers.
Yeah.
You know, how are we supposed to and the Fed do all these stuffs by yourself. You can't. We gotta be part of a group. And everything's part of a group. We work better in numbers. It's just human nature. It goes back to, our origins, us being, in a way we're animals. So we have to be,
Yeah, well, if we want to make a difference, we have to be.
Yeah.
We can be lonely and on our own, and the impact we will make on the world will be very, very minimal. But the moment we want to start making a bigger difference, we have to group ourselves in bigger structures, because that's the only way you can move things in the world. Okay, I'm going to move on with you because we can talk for hours. And by the way, I don't mind talking for hours, just have all these nice people that helping us.
And staring and being bored out of the minds.
Okay. GetBased. Let's talk about GetBased.
Okay.
Why did you start it? And Julian, and tell me all about GetBased. I love the work you guys do. By the way, go follow them on Twitter and YouTube. I share all your clips, not just on Twitter. I have my Telegram channels.
Yes,
and I share it there.
I know.
And I have those people who get upset with me for sharing Bitcoin stuff on my Telegram channel.
Why?
I don't give a fuck. And I share it anyway. Yeah.
Well, we try to be broad with our content. How we started was Julian and I went to do a documentary over in Peru. And to do this documentary, we tried to get a lot of sponsors, but nobody wanted to sponsor the documentary. And we knew there was a story there. It's a Bitcoin circular economy. If you guys don't know what's going on, you guys should follow Motive. What they're doing in Peru is truly God's work. They're using Bitcoin as a tool for freedom. And they're teaching them not only about Bitcoin, but these communities in the outskirts of Peru on how to be normal human beings, how to be self-sufficient, how to be sovereign. And it all started by us not getting sponsors. And we decided to crowdfund the whole thing. And thanks to the Bitcoin community, all the plebs helped us fund the whole thing, and small companies from the industry.
Can you say how much you managed to raise?
We raised, I think it was a quarter of a Bitcoin, if I'm not mistaken.
Nice.
Don't quote me on that, but it was a lot of money. And what happened was, when we were on the plane on our way back, we realized that me and Julian worked really well together. So we start talking, and he's like, yo, there's this other guy named Adam. He's also Canadian. He has his own company called Bitcoin Well, but I always wanted to start something with him. And I wanted to do, a Bitcoin media company. There's not many of us out there, and we have stories to tell, but we can't keep getting told no. Because obviously you need money to fund these things. And we're not asking for like crazy amounts of money, but we need to cover for flights and, the edition, because it got to look pretty.
Editing,
for people to watch. And he's like, why don't we start a company? And that's how we started.
That's how it started.
GetBased.
And it's now operating for what, a year? Or
We started in January, and we decided we're still trying things out. We do documentaries and
short videos.
Short videos. We have the Future Proof Show, which is a commentary show, and Wrong Think, where we talk about all these conspiracies that there are out there, and we try to
tell the truth about them. So you did one about Ethereum, which was amazing.
We did Ethereum, about food, the food industry.
Okay, yes.
Boeing.
Yes. Boeing, right. I
Boeing.
haven't watched the Boeing one yet.
We'll have one about Michael Saylor, so stay tuned for that. And we're going to start another show about Bitcoin Isla.
Ah, yeah?
Yeah.
Nice. Okay. So we're going to put a link to all of that in the show notes. But let's go back to the documentaries. So you did Peru. But also there were other documentaries. Maybe Julian did them himself on Guatemala and Costa
El
Rica.
Salvador, Costa Rica. He's done
all of it
amazing
himself.
work out there.
Amazing work. You guys have to really tune into that channel and start watching, because there's some amazing, brilliant content. Let's dig deeper into Peru. So tell me about the trip you had there and what you saw. It's delivered beautifully in the movie, but also from you being a Peruvian, with your background, what kind of circle did it close for you maybe when you were there?
Well, it was that's how it all started, because I was a Peruvian. I had made a post on Twitter. It was during Peru Independence Day. And I said, oh, it's so funny that they're celebrating independence, but they're not really independent. And Julian saw that and he reached out. He's like, hey, I'm doing a doc in Peru. Want to come?
Hold on, not independent because of the regime or because of how they live their
like
daily lives?
How they live their daily lives.
Okay.
You know, government in Peru is very corrupt. We've had like 5 presidents back to back go to jail. The politics in South America is very funky. So he DMs me and I was like, you know what, I'm gonna go. There's a before and after, because when you see everything that's going on, you won't believe it until you see it with your own eyes, type of thing. Because I remember before telling my family I was gonna go cover this documentary, and they're like, they don't use Bitcoin. What are they gonna do with Bitcoin in Cusco? And that's the thing. These people don't have bank accounts. So they're like, how are they getting Bitcoin if they don't have bank accounts? And I like to just do what life takes me. I didn't do much research on Motive. I just wanted to experience it. The first day we meet Valen. So Vale, he's the one in charge of running Motive on the ground. It's 2 people. It's Vale and Rick, and Vale is the on-ground guy. Vale has organized more than 16 circular economies in Peru. But instead of going...
Towns, villages?
Villages.
Okay.
Villages. Yes. Because he doesn't even go to the tourist parts. He goes hours away doing on the side. I would call it missionary work. So Guayapata is this city that's 2 hours away from Cusco. Everybody goes to Cusco, right? If you go to Peru, you go to Cusco to go to Machu Picchu. But this town is 2 hours away by car. It doesn't have anything around it. No supermarkets. The closest bank is 2 hours away by walking because they don't have cars. It's just their community. It's like going back to how we used to live.
The Middle Ages, yeah.
Into the Middle Ages. So when Valen went in there, they didn't even have phones. But because of the pandemic, what happened was Peru put a lot of cell towers everywhere. So they had cell service, but no cellular devices. And Valen, what he does is he teaches them how to earn things. He doesn't just hand them out.
Yeah.
Or whatever.
It's not charity.
No.
It's teaching, giving them skills, giving them
skills on how to work, how to do things. So he's like, if you guys can manage to get 300 soles, like you guys can purchase the phones. And then I will teach you how to use Bitcoin and create the circular economies from then. So that's how he ended up giving them their phones. They earned 300 soles and paid for their phones. And he started bringing teachers, having the students pay for them in Bitcoin.
Nice.
And depending on what city he's in or what village he's in, he teaches them what they have from their resources. So in this town, Guayapata, he's teaching them how to sew. And not him, but like a teacher there teaches them how to sew. They pay the teacher and then they sell their products for Bitcoin. And that's how they live. And they interchange from each other, peer to peer through Bitcoin. They do use the Lightning Network. It's not on-chain because you guys need to understand on-chain fees are super expensive. Some people, I've seen a lot of tweets of people being like, oh, it's $2 today. But $2 for them is a lot.
Yeah.
So for them, using it on the Lightning Network works. It's easy because it just transacts. They don't know too much about holding your own Bitcoin. They don't get that part of it, but they do understand it's just peer-to-peer. They treat it like the cash system that it's supposed to be.
Yep.
So that's what's going on there.
When you were there, was it moving for you? Was it exciting to see what can
What
be?
do you mean? I cried like a baby when I saw the documentary. When I saw the documentary for the first time, I cried 3 times.
Wow.
Because we don't realize how lucky we are. Even for us to be sitting here. we get so caught up on living our own lives that growing up in a first world country in the United States, you're always striving for what's next, you know, but we take for granted the basic needs.
Yeah.
And these people don't even have the basic needs. Like, they've been shunned by the government. They don't have bank accounts. So they don't have good education. They speak Quechua. They don't even speak Spanish. They speak their own dialect. And what breaks my heart is there's this part in the documentary where you see all the students that were coming out of their education, of their school, and Julian asks them, hey, what do you guys want to be when you grow up? And you see these 7, 8-year-olds being like, I want to be an engineer. I want to be a lawyer. I want to be a doctor. Another girl goes, I want to be an engineer and a doctor. And you look at them, and it's so sad because of their circumstances, they don't have the opportunity to be any of that. That's how fucked it was.
Yeah.
And that's what breaks your heart. Obviously, they have such big dreams, ambitions, and they're going to be shattered by the time that they're 10 years old. There was one of the kids that didn't go to the class that we were there. I think it was a Saturday. So they didn't allow him to go because he was doing farm work and he was 10 years old. They don't value education because in the outskirts of Peru, there's this mentality of if your dad did not succeed in life, you're not going to succeed in life. They don't want their kids to be better than them. Oof. And that's what, you know, tugs at heart. We're in a fucked up system. Earlier I said the government abandoned them, but also we as a society abandoned them because we forget about that part of the population. There's not many people that go out and see what they're living and seeing how they can help or what they need. Their houses don't have sewage. They don't have proper, you know, toilets. They go on, you know, Mother Nature type of stuff. And it's their reality. And I think what Motive is doing is building this bridge, taking them from being secluded, uniting them to the whole world. Well, I wouldn't say the whole world, but like, you know, 50%
a big community.
of the world.
Yeah.
So it's just crazy what you see there. Once you're there, there's things that you can't unsee. And that's what I mean. Like, it changes you. Just, it puts everything into perspective. Like, what does matter?
And that passion for that mission that you have, mission to bring that opportunity to people that don't have the same luxuries that we have, is that something that was driving you to open BTC Isla?
Yeah. I originally wanted to orange pill Isla Mujeres.
Yes.
But,
I just wanted to orange pill Isla Mujeres.
but
I just had a small dream of orange pilling an island.
Orange pilling an island. I thought that was
It's amazing. This is what the guys were doing in Madeira.
Yes.
So we want to orange pill this island.
Because the thing is, like, about the Bitcoin community is you have to contribute in one way or another. I'm no coder. So I was like, I can't develop anything. You know, I'm dummy with technology, but I could try an orange pill an island. That was my original idea. But when I did Motive, I was like, no, like, this is bigger than that. Because my mentality was, yeah, orange pill the island, that's going to be super cool. But then once I went to Motive, I saw how Bitcoin was just one arm of the octopus. It wasn't the whole octopus. And I was like, that's what I want to do. So it's not just about orange pilling. It's just Bitcoin is part of the pyramid. I want to do more there, more than just teaching them about Bitcoin.
Tell us what you do with BTC Isla.
So BTC Isla recently started. It's a long journey. The idea of it is to create a Bitcoin circular economy and help the people from Isla Mujeres. Isla Mujeres, aside from, you know, Peru, it is very touristy. It's an island. I thought, you know, I could take on that, me by myself and my boyfriend. So when I got there, I didn't realize all the barriers that I would get. The main idea was for me, yeah, everybody's going to want to come to the classes. I'm going to start with the schools, teach the kids after school or something like that. But no, it's been, obviously, there's been some challenges. And I've been realizing that I have to keep an open mind. But you see, in Isla Mujeres, the schools only go for 4 hours. Students go in at 7, they leave at 11 a.m. And then they're free to the world. The education system is very sketchy, but thanks to the education that I got, I know things. It not only teaches you to do basic stuff, but to do critical thinking. And we've noticed that not the students, but the people on the island, their brains don't go more than like a certain level. Like things that you would, be like, oh, this is so obvious. For them, it's not obvious. You have to explain things. We have this saying in Spanish, explicarlo como manzanas, teaching them like with apples, super simple, fundamentals, like back to 3rd grade type of language. So the idea is to first try to, finish and teach more classes of Bitcoin Isla through the Mi Primer Bitcoin. Mi Primer Bitcoin has this curriculum where there's 10 chapters and you teach them about Bitcoin. You teach them about why the dollar became so powerful, about Bretton Woods, what happened in 1971 before it was gold, like the basics. And then after chapter 5, it teaches them about what is Bitcoin, what's Bitcoin mining. Very, very well-rounded. So right now in 2-3 weeks, we're going to have the first graduating class. It's 4 students. And my idea is to select one of those students that I've seen that has that passion to help me continuing the project, to not just, continue the classes, but to tackle on with the taxis. The taxi drivers there have, it's called, not like a taxi mafia, but,
a union,
I would say. The idea is to create a place where Bitcoin is used as a tool for freedom and teach them other things other than Bitcoin. So ideally, I want to do an English class for the students so they can learn English because there's a lot of American tourists. We want to do retreats in Mayaquita to teach them about the Bitcoin community and expand it. Obviously, they're huge plans, but you have to start somewhere.
Yeah.
And right now I'm starting with the education because I can handle that and then build onward. I remember talking to Valen and he was like, listen, what you have to do is find someone to help you build. You need to find your
partners.
Yep. So that's what I'm doing.
Good. And people can contribute to you?
Yes.
You have a Geyser page,
fund.
A Geyser fund. So you guys, we're going to put the link also in the notes. And if you want to contribute in sats and help
I
teach
give them
more
sats
people.
for coming to class.
And that's not bribery?
No, because they're proof
that's
of work.
proof of work, right?
They're putting in the work. That's when I realized when you have to see these students, I call them students, but they're from the ages of 21 or 23 to 40. They work. So they're taking time out of their day, 2 hours, not an hour. It's 2 hours to come, sit, and learn. And
they return every
class?
They've
returned every single class.
Okay.
And this is actually super funny. I was going to teach them in my last class how to use BitRefill. BitRefill, you can use your sats to spend money, to spend your sats and, use it in Starbucks, use it however you want. And at the beginning, they were all asking me, how do we spend our sats that you're giving us? The way that I did it was I would send them their sats in Coinos, which is this non-KYC Lightning wallet where they can only send it to Lightning wallets. They can send it either on-chain or send it to somebody else. but they can't buy or sell the Bitcoin. So at the beginning, they're all like super excited, like, hey, how do we spend our sats? And by the class 8, I was like, all right, do you guys want me to show you how to spend your sats? And they're like, no, please, don't. I don't even want to know. They want to keep it.
Wow, that's really good.
They're all super excited. One of them even asked his boss to get paid in Bitcoin.
Wow, this is so cool.
Some people say I'm bribing them, but I'm like, your time is valuable. It's one thing you never get back. Money comes and goes, sats come and go, but your time is something that you will never get back.
Yeah.
So sitting there for 2 hours, listening to me lecture, I mean, come on.
With your funny voice.
With my funny voice. And sometimes, it's like work for them.
Okay. A bit of a different question on a different topic, coming from the media world and seeing what is happening to the media landscape today. How do you see the media landscape changing around us? Especially, I'm interested in your view as a young person who knows how people consume their content these days. Like millennials and Gen Z are consuming their content very differently than boomers and Gen X's. So how do you see the media landscape changing? I obviously have my opinion, the mainstream media being completely bought, but I wanna hear your take about this industry and its purpose and how it's being used.
Well, it is bought. Coming from the inside, I ended up working at a media company called Hola TV, where it was a show about entertainment in Spanish. And when I was in there, I realized how corrupt it was from the inside. That's also one of the reasons why I ended up quitting. I remember everything you see on TV or everything, that's filtered by the executive producer. So it's not what's most important or what the news or what they want to cover. What I experienced, it was what the executive producer liked. I remember there were like trending artists that were rising, and that's what the people liked. And because the executive producer didn't like him, he was like, we're not gonna put him on air because I don't like him. I don't like his music. I don't like his style. So what we have to think about the media is it's run by people. People are biased. Whether people are like, oh, no, I'm not biased. We're all biased in one way or another. So having the system be run by people, they have their likes, they have their dislikes. And that's what the people see on TV, what the people behind the scenes want them to see. There were news that we couldn't cover because they didn't want to get the channel taken down. So it's sort of...
Because of censorship?
Of censorship. It's very limiting. People think that what they see is everything that they're seeing. It's handpicked and chosen by people. I remember having our meetings 8 a.m. and they tell you what to do. This is what's happening. This is what's real. Yeah. And they try to fluff it in a way or tell the story in a certain way that favors their likes or their vision or what, the people want to see.
And what do you think, how do you think young people are influenced today by the media?
Well, honestly, young people I don't think are even watching TV. My generation, it's all about the internet and what the first video they see. It's not even about verifying if the information is right. It's just the first thing they see, that's what's right. And it's all led by virality, by most views. I can go online today and, say the president of a country is trafficking children. And people see that and they're like, oh, the president, and they're going to like it. And they don't go the extra mile to verify that information. When in journalism school, they taught us that you had to verify the news 3 times before it went online. And now it's, if you can find a confirmation by an account on Instagram that has more than 400K followers, automatically verified. And I think that's now what it's come down to.
And how do you think this is going to change or progress? It may escalate, it may become even worse, or where do you think this is going? Because the control of different powers around the world in the media world is horrible. Not just in the mainstream media and TV and radio, it's internet as well. And how do you think it's going to change? Is it by people like you balancing it with some truth telling, doing the same thing, like doing entertainment, doing proper media and journalistic work, but just with information or truth that other people don't want to show?
The only way I see this changing is through Nostr. Nostr is just the beginning. Like, I think it's...
So for those that don't know, I'll just say Nostr is a social media network. It's a lot more than that, basically. It's a protocol, but it's used today for social media that is uncensored.
It's uncensored, and you can't get banned.
Yep.
And that's the most important. You can't get banned.
Yes.
So social media is not going to change. Either we put the masses into Nostr and they start adapting it, which I think is going to happen in a couple of years. I don't think it's going to be any like super soon. I think there's like some barriers, how easy it is to use and stuff. People are not going to spend the time to learn how to do it. That's the reality. People don't want to spend time to do anything nowadays. But social media is so controlled that even people like me that want to say what is happening are getting their voices shut down.
Yes.
I had a TikTok account that got shadow banned because I was talking about public information that anybody can research about Jeffrey Epstein.
Yeah.
Shadow banned after the 9th episode. And people were messaging me like, yo, honestly, like, you need to be careful because many people have disappeared because of the things that you're saying. I completely like put those videos, took them down, stopped posting about that. The thing is, the algorithm doesn't publish the videos to people, especially like YouTube. Put whatever you want on it and then puts a limit to who they show them to. That's what also happens in TikTok. The videos you put there and then, you know, you're talking about something controversial, they stop showing it to the people, but they're like, your video's there, it's just not performing well. And then it doesn't get passed on to other people. So they censor us in a way that most people don't realize we're being censored.
1000% everything you said. And on top of that, even when things do start coming out in the media, like, for example, there was a headline in the first page of the UK Telegraph the other day. I think it was about vaccine injured from COVID jabs. It was front page. It was the first time that something like that happened. And Dr. Asim Al-Hotra from the UK, he's a cardiologist, he put it up on his Instagram. And not only they took it off and gave him a strike, and he's like a well-known doctor with like hundreds of thousands of followers, whatever. It was ridiculous. They said it was misinformation. And this was in the Telegraph, the first page. He didn't even write anything about it. He just put a photo of the article of the front page from the Telegraph. Now they're saying that their own media is misinformation. And then I was sharing his post on my story. That post on my story. So I got a warning as
what?
Like everyone that shared, and these are thousands of people that shared this post because this post went viral. So everyone that shared his post got a warning. Technically, this is not even a human intervention. It's like the algorithm is giving everyone a warning, meaning that you have a few warnings, you can be deplatformed.
No.
It's crazy.
No, and you get canceled too. So it's not even that the social media bans you, but you're also canceled by the people because everybody's so brainwashed.
Yes.
Let's not even talk about the platforms. Instagram, we know that's banning.
I always give the example of Melissa Fleming. She's the director of global communications for the UN. And she's interviewed a couple of years ago at the World Economic Forum. And she's saying when you type in climate change into Google, you get all these funny search results. So we partner with Google in order to make sure that the real information is being displayed to people because, listen to this, we own the science and we need the world to know it.
I know.
And the platforms know it as well. Like this, it's all out in your faces, people. Like if you by now don't realize where you're living and in what kind of reality we are living, then you're living in La La Land.
But do they actually know, like, believe their own bullshit? Like, that's what I want to know.
Yes.
Like,
of course.
them that are like
No,
doing the
they
whole
really
thing.
think that they're doing a good thing for humanity because they don't want you to go into Google and type in climate change and get all these weird, horrible information. They want you to get the good stuff, the stuff that will protect you, that will make your life better. Of course, they believe it. I'm not
that's
just,
how it
I'm not
goes.
being cynical.
They buy
I'm
the
serious.
scientists.
They really think that they're doing a good job, that they're doing something good for humanity. And that's the scary shit because this is how much they're biased. They're bought into their own lies. This is a psychological problem, you know.
But it makes you wonder if there even is free speech anymore.
There is no
Because
free speech
there's
anymore. No, there is no free speech anymore. The good question is, I think, and Jack Dorsey was saying that the problem is not that there is no free speech. The problem is that there is no free thought anymore because those platforms, not only that they control your speech, like what the examples we just gave, they are hurting you to think certain things, not just to say or not say, but to actually think certain things. So they will show you, just like you gave the example of the teenagers seeing the first post that pops up and they believe that to be true because it's from a big account. Today, the algorithms will drive certain information to you so that you become biased and believe certain things. It's not that you don't have free speech, you don't have free thought because they're in a way controlling. There's like this channel, this tube going into your brain from all these social media platforms, literally like feeding garbage into your brain, and you don't have control over that anymore unless you fucking wake up.
But people aren't waking up because it goes back. They're training people from when they're becoming children.
Yes.
So like if you ask, even with asking them the simplest question, what do you want to be when you grow up? Or how do you want your life to be?
Right.
They all have the same answer. I want to be rich, have a nice car, have a nice house, and then, I don't know. You know what I mean?
And this is why it is so important for parents to understand their role. I have a 14 and a half year old son, and as he was growing up, I understood that this is my responsibility to expose him to certain information when he's young, that most parents don't want to expose their kids to that information. And I'm not talking about disturbing stuff, right? I don't want to obviously ruin anything in his development or his childhood, but I'm talking about things that are happening today in the world that kids can understand and can absorb, and we deprive them from that understanding because we want to protect them and because we think that they will not get it, and they get it big time. My son gets Bitcoin. My son gets corrupt government. My son gets corrupt fiat. He gets so many things, and I talk to him about almost everything. He gets corrupt climate change, COVID, scientists, what they did to the science. He gets everything, and it's our responsibility as good parents to look at the kind of indoctrination that our kids are going through in the public system. If you don't have the means or the capacity to take your children out of the system, at least go through their books and see what they're teaching them and look through their notebooks and be involved. And then sit with your child and tell them, you know, here, they're teaching you all this stuff. And so you need to be the mediator, because if you don't step in and interrupt that cycle of indoctrination, your kids are going to be the same zombie that you're seeing in the street today, that doesn't care about anything and doesn't have the capacity to think for themselves. And if you want them to be critical thinkers like Isa or like her students, then you have to intervene and you have to take the responsibility. Yeah, it's a big thing. Yeah. It's much more fun to go and take your son to just buy ice cream and play ball and go to the beach. But reality today is more complex than that.
In their defense, one, the system is taking that right as a parent to teach them, the core values. Like the school is trying to divide that.
Yes.
And not even that, they're making it so hard for the parents that don't have the time. Like they're making the parents so dependent on the system that they're exhausted to go that extra mile. Like if you go to the people that have to work 2 jobs to bring a plate to the table for their kids, to pay the rent because they can't even afford a house, to pay their car because they have to commute to work and put their child in daycare. Because now I have a couple friends that have kids. The normal daycare age is 2 months.
Oh, fuck.
2 months. That's how it's starting in the United States. So the parent can go and work. So that's the ways the systems are dividing that. There's no such thing as a household. You're crazy now if you want to have kids at 24.
Yeah.
For the longest time, they changed the chip that you're like, oh no, have kids later. Yeah. And you don't realize you're being so brainwashed to be part of the system that when you do want to have kids, what if you're not even fertile yet?
Yes.
Women in certain parts of the country, they don't believe in ever having kids. Mm-hmm. My brother's wife, she's like, for the longest time, I thought I didn't want to have children. And she just gave birth to like her first child. And she's like, I want to have more. I want to have more. Like, this is why I came to the world. So some people are waking up in subtle ways, but they can't because they're brainwashed. They're too tired to wake up because they overwork them. They have to pay so many things. The IRS takes half of your bill. And at the end of the day, when you're like, oh, can you look at what I'm teaching, mom or dad? They're like, I
know. I agree with you. I think that you're right. That's one of the reasons why I quit my old life and started a new life, so that I'm privileged enough and can afford it, will put everything aside and be the voice and create a stage for people to speak rationally and bring out truths that may be inconvenient but be very important for people to be aware of. So hopefully the ones that are more open to wake up will wake up. However, I do believe that it's a soul's choice in the end of the day. And if you don't actively choose, or your soul chooses to wake up and make a change in your life, then you can't and you won't. So you really have to choose it. You have to want it. You have to decide that that's what you're going to do now.
You got to sacrifice.
Yes. And for some people, it will never happen, and it's fine. I'm here and you're here doing what we're doing for the ones that decide to take that step in their lives. So that when they do decide to, okay, I'm ready to hear more or to know more or to be exposed to inconvenient truths, they'll have some sane people to listen to, right?
But
so
it's so connected that even social media comes into play. So let's say a parent wants to quit the system.
Yeah.
They are so brainwashed. They're like, how am I going to pay for things? How am I going to buy new things? Because they're worried about what the other people are thinking. So they're not going to sacrifice like that 1 or 2 years of not having much money, barely surviving, to step out of the system. So it all comes from social media, the social pressure to be a certain way, to act a certain way. And then the parents become so dependent that they can't step out.
Sure, I get you. I think that you don't necessarily have to come to a situation where you leave everything. You don't have to do what I did, because I could do it because I have the financial capability to do it. But most people can continue living their old life, right? And paying their debts and paying their mortgages and their cars and everything, student loans, whatever it is, but start with mindset change. Once you are open to change your mind about certain things and to let go of limiting beliefs and to look into yourself and do some mental, spiritual work, then you can start changing things from inside. And then your view of the world changes, and then the actions that you choose to take change while you're still living your same normie lives, and you do little baby steps to change your life. And I'm not just saying this as a slogan, I'm saying this as I'm helping people do that in their lives. Some of the closest people to me are making these changes in their lives when they have big debts and they're in bad financial hardship in their lives, and I'm helping them go through it. And they don't take drastic measures to quit their old lives and be without money for 1 or 2 years. No, they continue to live the same life, but we're working on changing the mindset. And by that, things open up in their lives that they have never expected before. Like they open a side small business and they start attracting all this wealth. And they live a life of abundance. Just in their mindset, they change something. And all of a sudden, abundance starts to come into their lives and more money comes into their life. And now they can start thinking about how they drop some of this old life or return some debts, or you know what I mean? Yeah. So it's not a magic. It's not an instant change that you make in your life. You have to be open for a journey. But you have to start that journey from really choosing and being courageous enough to start taking the first step and then taking it step by step.
What made you opt out?
COVID at the beginning, that started my journey because I wouldn't let anyone dictate for me what I have to do with my body and take my rights away and discriminate against me. And then from COVID, I said, if they're taking my bodily autonomy rights, next thing they're going to do is try to take my property rights and hold of my money. And I've worked really hard to be where I am today as a single mom for 20 years, working my ass off to provide for my son and everything. I'm not going to let them touch that. So I need to learn about money. So I did. So I started learning about money, and then I was orange pilled, and then it was like opening up a whole new world for me. But yes, I realized that I have a gift like you, right? Which is my voice. And even if it's not funny, it's it's a voice. I was always a very self-expressed person that has to show up and give something back and deliver a message, whether it would be through dancing. I was a dancer when I was younger, or performing or talking or whatever. So today, after living for 44 years and gaining my life's insights and being in corporate business world for 20 years, I have a lot to give back to people and a lot of knowledge. And I'm a journalist, so I write and I research and I give it back. And I think it's our mission to understand what we're here for and why we have the gifts or the skills we have. Is it just for us to enjoy it, or is the next step is to give something back to the world? And so that's why I'm doing this. And you, young lady, a very, very talented young lady, you please carry on doing what you're doing, because it's very, very inspirational. And I think a lot of young people will draw a lot of inspiration from you. And so what I love about the work you do is that you use the tools and the means that exist today to deliver something else, something new, refreshing, and truthful, which is missing so much. And so please keep doing what you're doing.
Thank you.
We need your voice. We need you. This is super important. Last question. What was the funniest or weirdest thing that someone told you in your street interviews?
Oh my goodness. You'd be surprised.
Oh my God.
It was savage going out in the streets in Wynwood at night to get the best people out there. I did those 2-3 years ago. Probably the funniest, the first one that comes into my mind, is the one I did with David Bailey. He was high on life at this time. I was interviewing him. David Bailey's
the CEO of BTC.
Bitcoin magazine.
We have an episode with him.
Yeah?
On the podcast.
He's the greatest. He's super fun. And it was the first time he's ever been to a music festival. And it was in 2022. Bitcoin magazine did a Bitcoin concert, and I was interviewing him, and we were like having fun talking, and I just like sit there and I'm waiting for a high five for like a full on minute, and he's like, and I'm like, and he's like, yeah, talking, whatever, and I'm like, yeah, We're just not going to do the high five thing. I've also, with Michael Saylor, he was a fun one to do an interview for.
Really?
Yeah. I did an interview with him. There's so many of them. There's just so many.
Excellent. And where can people follow you?
On X or Twitter, whatever you call it.
On Nostr as well?
On Nostr as well. Instagram.
Yeah.
I'm everywhere.
You're everywhere.
On all the social media platforms, except Facebook.
Isa, thank you so much, my dear.
Thank you.
Love you. It was
Me
amazing.
too.
Thank you.
Thank you for letting me ramble on.
My pleasure. Thank you, guys.
That's awesome. Hi, thank you.